All right. Well, today's topic, as mentioned in the little title, is just basically what good coaching looks like. So this topic is basically going to be really beneficial both for other coaches. I think it would be very beneficial, frankly, for other coaches to watch, but also for people who are clients of coaches or who want to be clients of coaches, or maybe who already have a coach and can't decide for sure if they think that that coach is actually doing a very good job. There seems to be a lot of miscommunication that goes on in the coaching industry and a lot of misunderstandings of potential and existing clients of coaches, what they should actually expect from a coach and the services that they're paying for. And to be honest with you, it's very rare that you get an opportunity to really explain how all this works or the way that it should work or what you should expect. So I wanted to do, a long form video on it just so that I could kind of unpack some of this stuff. Because again, I think, first of all, I think a lot of people are paying a ton of money for really, really bad coaching. And they don't know that because in a lot of cases, they don't have anything to compare it to. And in other cases, they do have something to compare it to. And they may be getting really bad coaching and comparing it to horribly bad coaching and thinking that it's actually pretty good. So, and I kind of want to dive into the coaching side of things because I don't want to just point out why I'm better than all the other coaches. That's not the point of this video at all. In no way, shape, or form is that the purpose behind me making this video. I just want an opportunity to kind of unpack all the things that go into me doing my job the way that I do it and compare that to what a lot of other coaches are doing and what a lot of other coaches probably should be doing. And frankly, there are other coaches out there that may be providing better services than me. I don't know, but like I said, I just kind of want to unpack that because I think a lot of people have kind of skewed a kind of skewed idea of what they're getting from a coach. And it's funny because sometimes people, when they're not following through with their plan, all of a sudden their expectations of their coach is something like astronomical. Whereas other people think that their coach is over delivering, even if they're probably in some cases kind of under delivering. So what I'll start with is just the most basic, obvious stuff, and then we'll kind of unpack more of the obscure stuff because I think in a lot of cases, the obscure stuff is what really gets lost in translation, but I'll unpack some of the obvious stuff as well, just so people kind of have an idea of what the obvious stuff should look like. And when I say obvious, I mean surface level fulfillment. Like, what are you actually physically as a coach doing for a client? Or what are you as a client actually receiving from that coach? So let's just start with the really obvious stuff, your plan, right? In most cases, this is going to be centered around nutrition, maybe training, maybe a combination of both. In my case, it's a combination of both. I think if you're going to be a fitness coach, you should at least handle fitness, training and nutrition. I think both of those things should be addressed. Now, you may have a client who really only needs one or the other, but I think the option of having both should be there because if you're just doing training programs for people and not handling the nutrition side of things for them at all, you're not even doing 50% of what you probably could or should be doing, right? Like the nutrition piece is probably by far the most important in terms of actually delivering results, especially because a vast majority of people who reach out for coaching are doing it to improve their body composition. If you want to change your body composition, if you want to get leaner, if you want to lose body fat, if you want to become more insulin sensitive, if you want to build muscle, all of those things, which is, again, that's what 90+% of people reach out about coaching for. You have to cover the nutrition component of it. Right. So if you're not doing nutrition plans, I'm sorry, but your training program, no matter how good it is, can only really make somebody stronger. And that's really the end of the day. Most people are not reaching out for coaching just to become stronger, unless they're powerlifters or something. And that's maybe a completely different topic. But again, that's really not what I'm discussing today. I'm discussing coaching as a whole, primarily for people who want to improve their body composition. As I think it's relatively obvious if you're following me. I work with mostly competitors and then lifestyle clients, again, who just want to change their body composition by getting most of the time leaner. So I think doing both of those is important. How are those things being fulfilled? Are you getting a Microsoft Word document? Are you getting a Microsoft Excel sheet? Not that those things are wrong. Those things can work. Don't get me wrong. I think that those things can be effective for some people. I think that in 2025, very closely nearing 2026, I think that there are better methods that are not only more efficient for the client and more beneficial for the client and more user-friendly for the client, but also for you as a coach, if you're a coach. Just depends on who I'm talking to here. In my case, I have an app. And so the app makes it really easy, not only to deliver the nutrition plan, but also an opportunity for the clients to actually just track things just by a couple clicks. It makes adherence a lot better and a lot more likely, really, is the biggest thing. I think the biggest thing that most coaches run into is a lack of adherence with clients. I think that's the biggest bottleneck in most people's coaching business as far as results are concerned, is getting people to actually adhere to the plan. That's by far the biggest thing. And this is where I'm talking directly to coaches. The big thing about becoming a really good coach or a great coach is acknowledging that if most of your clients are not following their plans, it's not just their fault. Partially, yes. Like, obviously, there's got to be a component of discipline that comes into it. The client obviously has to be accountable in some way to the plan that you provide for them. You can only, as a coach, you can only lead a horse to water. You can't make them drink, so to speak. But at the same time, you also have to look in the mirror. If most of your clients aren't following your plan, you need to ask yourself, why? Why are they not following my plan? Is it just because everybody's lazy? Is it just because, like, you are the only person that's got enough discipline to actually follow a plan? No. That's not it at all. In most cases, it is because the plan that you are giving them does not coincide with their actual lifestyle. And that's a coaching problem. That is 9 out of 10 times. If your clients are not following their plan, it's not because they're just lazy. It's not because they are lacking discipline. In some cases, yes, don't get me wrong. I can't put all the blame on the coaches for the clients not following the plan, but some of it is. As a coach, are you taking into consideration people's preferences? Because you should be. 100% should be. Even if it's a competitor client, you should be taking into consideration foods that your clients like and don't like. If you're not taking into consideration foods that your clients like and don't like and just telling them to eat what I tell you to eat because I say so, they may or may not do that temporarily. In most cases, they just won't. Even if they do, it's probably going to be short-lived. And frankly, it's really easy for you on the other end of the coaching to assume that everyone should just do what you tell them to do, because it's probably very similar to something that you've done that worked for you. Well, one of the reasons that it worked for you is probably because you found some enjoyment in it. And if they don't, they're not going to follow that plan. And if they don't follow that plan, they're not going to get results. They're not going to send you referrals. They're not going to renew with you. They're not going to follow the plan. They're probably not going to check in. And there's probably a very high likelihood that they're going to ask for a refund. Those are all coaches' worst nightmares, is people that don't speak highly of you, people who don't send you referrals, who don't renew with you, and then getting into the even more important stuff, they don't follow your plan, they don't check in, and the worst of the worst is they ask for a refund because they're not getting results and they're not following the plan. Well, the best way to avoid that is in the very beginning, when you take into consideration their circumstances. Are they a 25-year-old bodybuilder who lives with their parents and has no bills, that only doesn't have a job and only has to do bodybuilding? Because if that's the case, then maybe it's realistic for you to require them to eat nothing but chicken and rice and broccoli, which, by the way, just from a health perspective, I would never recommend diets like that in the first place. That's an easy way to get people caught up in, food allergies and food intolerances across the board when you're limiting their food options to extremely small number of things. But either way, you could probably have a more realistic expectation of someone like I just described, being young and not having a lot of money, having unlimited time and resources available to them, and that are trying to get on stage and look the best they possibly can to win shows. However, on the other end of that coin, maybe you've got a single mom of 4 kids that works overnight shifts at the maximum security prison as a nurse. Are you still going to require her to eat nothing but chicken and rice and broccoli? I fucking hope not, man. I truly hope not, because it's just not going to happen. And maybe it will. And if so, great. Like, round of applause for that single mom who's able to pull that off and who's willing to pull that off. But at the same time, she shouldn't have to, right? We should all know by now that energy balance, first of all, there's a bajillion studies on this. There's also, let's just go back in time and look at Albert Einstein. That's the most cliche genius ever. Everyone knows that name. Everyone knows that at the time that he was alive, which was not that long ago, a couple generations ago, was the smartest human being on earth. Well, one of the things that Albert Einstein studied was thermodynamics and was never able to disprove the theory of the laws of thermodynamics, and helped establishing some of them. In other words, it has never been disproven or even remotely been close to being disproven that energy in versus energy out works. Therefore, if your clients are eating an appropriate number of calories with at least something that resembles optimal macros, which there's a wide variety of what that can look like, they will get results. So it doesn't have to be a narrow amount of food choices. Therefore, you as a coach should be good enough to understand, okay, this person doesn't like chicken breast. I'm not going to force them to eat it. There are other options that will work exactly the same way. And if they can enjoy that, they're more likely to follow it. And if they follow it, they will get results. And if they get results, they will probably send me referrals. And if they get results, they are a lot more likely to re-sign with me after their initial commitment is over. All of those things are big money makers for you, first of all. And second of all, like, your goal should just be to help people. Okay. And you can only help people if they're capable or willing to follow the plan that you give them. And if you're just giving them cookie cutter plans that are just chicken and broccoli and rice and then bitching about how nobody follows your plan, I'm sorry, but you are the problem, not the client. Simple as that, right? Like, or really what it comes down to is you should even just, if you want, establish at the forefront, I will only work with people who are willing to eat exactly what I tell them to eat. And to be honest with you, what I tell you to eat is going to be very rigid. It's going to be chicken and broccoli and rice and egg whites and oatmeal. And if you want to eat anything other than that, then I'm not your coach. Try that. See how many people actually hire you. Probably not very many. And even if they did, most of them are probably going to fall off and not get the results and not sign with you and all this other stuff. So again, it's real easy for coaches to just point the finger at clients and be like, they're lazy. They're just not disciplined enough. They won't follow their plan. Do you ever think that maybe it's because your plan sucks? Because it could definitely be that. It could definitely be that. And it's not that the plan won't work. Like, if they followed the plan, sure, it probably would work. It's not about whether or not your plan is workable and optimal. It's a matter of whether or not the human being on the other side of that screen that you're giving that plan to is ever going to actually be able to follow that plan logistically. And sometimes it's just a bad plan because you're giving them you're trying to jam a square peg through a round hole, trying to get, these soccer moms to eat nothing but chicken and broccoli and fucking rice, despite the fact that there are a billion other foods that would work exactly the same way. So again, you got to be a little bit more diligent about setting up plans that actually functionally work for people. When it comes to training programming, there's a lot more wiggle room there. To be clear, like, you could honestly cookie cutter some of that stuff and still get people very, very good results. But I do think that if you customize a lot of that stuff with most people, you're going to go a lot further, and they're going to be more likely to actually follow through with the plan. But at the end of the day, if they're training consistently and they're putting good effort into it, the nutrition is really going to drive the results, like 99.9%. With competitors who have, very specific and obvious like strengths and weak points, then you got to get pretty pragmatic with the training programming. Like Chris Jeffries, who I've worked with for years, had some of the best quads in the country. Like, I'm sorry, I have no shame in saying his quads are world class. Some of the best quads literally on the planet. Upper body was good. It became much, much better over time because we pragmatically put together his training program. And one thing that a lot of people don't understand about training is that you want to bring up a weak point. The best way to do that is to train the strong points less. And that's a hard thing for people to grasp. You're going to have to allocate more volume to that weak point, obviously, if you really want that to catch up to everything else. But just as importantly, you're going to have to reduce the volume to the strong points. Otherwise, you're just not going to recover from it. And then you're just going to end up with the exact same physique over and over. So again, with competitors, you may need to be a little bit more pragmatic about the training programming. Obviously, with powerlifters, you got to be very pragmatic with it because that's like everything. That's like the whole thing. But we're not really talking about powerlifters here. Communication, moving on. Communication is, let me just be clear. I've been doing this for like 15 years. I've done it at a very high level. I've worked with pro athletes. I've worked with pro competitors. I've worked with national level people all the way across the board. And the thing that I hear on loop almost literally every day from competitors who are looking for a new coach or whatever The biggest complaint that I hear, and by the way, this goes all the way to the top. Some of the biggest names in the entire history of the industry fall into this category. And I'm not going to name names because I'm not a piece of shit, but communication is the biggest thing lacking in the coaching industry by far, by a long shot. The thing that I hear constantly is I send my check-in and I don't hear anything sometimes for weeks at a time. What? Like, how is that even fucking possible? How did any of these coaches keep a job? I don't understand that at all. I don't understand how you can go that long without just simply responding to a message from a person who's paying you good money, putting food on your table, and they have a question and you just don't answer it, you just ignore it. That's insane to me. Like, you shouldn't be coaching at all if you can't respond to people, especially their check-ins. Like, if you're demanding of the client who's paying you to check in with you, I mean, it should just be obvious and assumed that you're going to respond to what they say to you every single time with no deviation. Unless, of course, you're like on vacation and you've communicated ahead of time, like, I'm going to be on vacation. I'm not going to do check-in responses this week. But again, we're talking maybe once a year that shouldn't really happen, maybe twice, whatever. I won't tell you how often you can go on vacation. But either way, if people are checking in with you and you're not responding, you're just not a coach at all. Like, you're just a person who's giving people a plan, accepting their money for it, and then that's it. Like, that's not a coach at all. That essentially would be like, let's just put it into terms that everybody can understand a little bit more clearly and contextually. Let's take traditional sports. Let's just take Eric Spoelstra as the coach, the longest tenured active coach in the NBA with the Miami Heat. That would be like him preseason having a team meeting with all the players and then just drawing up all the plays and then emailing it to them and then being like, all right, have a good season. Think about how stupid that would be. No, he shows up to practice every single day, shows up to all the games. He's coaching in real time. And you should be coaching in real time too. And it's way, way more hands off when you're doing online coaching. It's really as simple as sending messages back and forth. It's like, if you can't keep up with that, then you shouldn't be coaching people, period. Frankly, in my opinion, if you have a full-time job, you shouldn't be a coach because that full-time job is probably your biggest priority. And if your biggest priority is not your clients, then you're not a coach. Simple as that. I'm not saying that you're not qualified to be. You're just not a coach. You're just a person who has like a side hustle accepting money to give people a plan that you have very little intention of actually following through with on the coaching end, which is just as important as the client's end. So that's a big thing. You got to communicate. And if you're a person that's working with a coach right now and you have a coach that doesn't respond to your messages or your check-ins, end that contract immediately. Break that contract immediately and find a coach that will respond to you, because that is the most obvious that's the most obvious objective of the job of a coach. Respond to check-ins. Sorry, coaches out there, like, you're going to have to do that. And that's the thing that's missing more than anything is communication, which is really unfortunate. So, by the way, anybody that's on the live, like, feel free to ask questions or comment or just to get involved. I would love for you guys to get involved. That way, it just gives me more stuff to spit fire off of. I want to hear what you guys want me to talk about just as much as I want to just sit here and talk. So anyway, communication is big. Then we can go on to many other topics that most people probably wouldn't consider nearly as much, which is sales. We'll just start with sales. I want to talk to the clients a little bit about the sales component of this, because this is not just for competitors. This is for anybody. A lot of people who reach out about coaching need that coaching. Competitors don't need a coach. I definitely would highly, highly recommend it. Like, I would actually go as far as basically to say that you do need one if you want to be successful. But need is a loaded term. You don't even need to compete, right? Like, it's not a necessity. You don't need that. It's not going to like radically alter your life in a positive way if you get on stage. It's more of a hobby. So to say that you need a coach, probably need a coach if you want to be maximally successful on stage, sure. But a lot of these people who I get on calls with, and every other coach that works with lifestyle people has experienced this. If you're doing face-to-face calls, which I do on Zoom, you can just look at these people on the other end of that call and immediately know, like, they need this. They need this. Or they're going to die young. Like, if they don't do this, and it doesn't even necessarily mean work with me. They need a coach. They need somebody to give them a plan and accountability to follow that plan, because otherwise they're going to die young, and on their way to a young, early death, they're going to spend insane amounts of money at the doctor's office and at the pharmacy. and they're going to rely on those things to keep them alive. They're going to have very little quality of life because just getting around and doing basic functional things are just not going to be possible for them. Good luck traveling. Good luck getting on a Southwest Airlines flight, buying one ticket. Not going to happen. Good luck sitting in a crowded waiting room in chairs that your ass doesn't fit into. Good luck finding clothes that actually fit you. You know what I mean? And those are just the simple things. Like I said, these people need it. And so sales, despite the fact that nobody likes to be sold to, people don't like salespeople. I don't like selling. I hate selling. I suck at selling and I don't enjoy doing it. It makes me uncomfortable, as it makes most people uncomfortable both to do it and then be on the receiving end of a salesperson. However, when you're a coach, it is your objective to convince this person who truly needs you to hire you, not just because you get to take their money. And yes, of course, when you're running a business, you should be profitable and that should be a priority for you. No question. I get that. I'm not claiming that I don't do this for the money. I do it for the money. Money is important to me just like it is everybody else. But that's not the reason that I say that it is your main objective is to get that client to hire you. The main objective is because you could be saving that person's life. Like, you should be getting into coaching because you want to help people, whether that means literally saving somebody's life from dying of an obesity-related death, which, by the way, is the #1 leading cause of death in America. It's crazy that we don't talk about that more, by the way. The #1 cause of death in America is heart disease, which is caused by obesity. We have shit like COVID where everybody freaks the fuck out. COVID didn't kill nearly as many people as heart disease does. Not even close. And heart disease is 100% preventable through nutrition, proper nutrition. So if you're a coach and you're offering solutions to fix the biggest problem that is the #1 cause of death on planet Earth, then that should be your reason for sales. Not just money, but to help people prevent early death. And therefore, you should try to get good at sales, and you should do your damnedest to get people to hire you. Yes, it's going to cost them money. And yes, it's uncomfortable to talk about money and try to get people to give money to you, but you're solving the biggest problem that they will ever encounter, and they may not even recognize that it is that big of a problem. It's so much easier to focus on all the little bullshit problems that we have every day. Like, some of the people who will see this will know about my problem that I just had recently with my car. My car got repossessed because of an innocent mistake on my part. Admittedly, it was my fault. I wasn't making payments. I thought that I was making payments. Never heard any notification from Wells Fargo to inform me that my payments were not actually being drafted. And then 8 months later and no payments later, they just repossessed my car. The solution, or the conclusion of that story is I paid the car off. I got it back literally today. It's right in front of me out that window. Which is great, but it's easy for me to just fixate on that because it's a massive problem that's right at the forefront of my mind. But if I was morbidly obese, a much, much bigger problem would be the fact that I'm morbidly obese, not the fact that my car got repossessed and that I didn't have a means of transportation and you just had to take an insane amount of money out of my checking account to pay it off in order to get it back and whatever. Right? It's so much easier for me to focus on what's technically, in the long grand scheme of things, a small problem. And frankly, it's not. It's a huge problem. But it would be nowhere near as big of a problem as the fact that if I was morbidly obese, I would be literally walking myself to an early grave. That's a way bigger problem than not having my car for a week. Way bigger. But because it's not directly right in front of your face, sometimes as a coach, you have to be that person who makes that abundantly clear. Like, none of the other problems you have in your life, financial or otherwise, are nearly as important as you losing this weight. Therefore, figure out a way to pay me so that I can give you this plan and guide you to way better quality of life, way more confidence, a better physique, way better health, being able to get around and functionally behave like a human being. And whatever else, there's a million different things that, like, as coaches, like, you can literally change somebody's life in the most meaningful way you could possibly imagine, right? And when you're presenting your fee, whatever you charge, a lot of people are going to think, oh, that's expensive. Compared to what? What is it expensive compared to? Is it expensive compared to the $500,000 that you're going to spend on diabetes medications and doctor visits between 30 and 70? Because it's not. No coach is charging $500,000. But they can prevent $500,000 for you if you just pay them. And again, you have to be able to, sales should be a way to actually help somebody, not just a way for you to make money. Brittany, let's see. So about price, cheap coaching likely won't incentivize someone to actually stick to the plan they're paying for. Thank you. That's actually a really good point. And that's something that I should have thought of on my own. And that's why I do this on a live video so that I can get input from other people. If I'm charging you cheap prices, I actually just had a call with a different coach the other day. He just wanted to get on a call, like kind of just an advice type call. And we were talking about, how he's doing things. He said he's struggling with his business, blah, blah, blah. My first question I asked him is, what are you charging? He's charging $150 a month. And I was like, well, your first problem is you're not charging nearly enough. And he was kind of like, oh, okay. Well, I just figure like if I charge lower prices, more people will hire me. And, I can get my built up a portfolio or however you want to word it or whatever. And it's like, no, fuck that. Because if people are paying you $150 a month for coaching, they're not going to follow that plan. The same way when I very first started, right? Let's back up to when I very first started coaching around 15 years ago. I wanted to get my foot in the door by having some testimonials from people. And I didn't feel comfortable charging anybody because I hadn't really done it before. I knew a lot. The self-education process for me started well over 20 years ago. This is something that I've been massively passionate about since I was in high school. I have my old meal plan from 2003 that I just looked at the other day. I had a nutritionist and a trainer all the way back then, and I was a junior in high school at the time. And, but I still didn't feel comfortable charging people because I was like, I don't have any experience. So yeah, let me help you out. And then if I start getting referrals, then I'll start charging people. Well, I would do it for free. And guess what? What number of people ever followed the free plans that I gave them? I bet you can guess real quickly. You can count on 0 hands the number of people who followed the plans that I gave them for free. No one follows a free plan because there's absolutely no accountability. None. If you don't follow a plan that you spent $0 on, thing bad happens, right? But if you spend $4,000 on a plan, yeah, exactly, Brittany, 0. Nobody did. And if you're doing cheap plans, it's the same thing. Like to most people, by the time the money comes out of their bank account, give it about an hour and their life just goes back to normal. They're not thinking about money anymore. And if it's just like $150, that doesn't put a dent in almost anybody's bank account these days. So it's like it needs to put a little bit of a dent in their bank account so that they can be like, okay, I paid good money for this. I feel obligated to follow this plan. And if they do, and then they're more likely to actually follow through with it. And if they do, then all of those other things trickle down. I'm going up, trickle down into success, both for them and for you as a coach. So sales is actually an important component, even from the client's perspective. Sometimes you as a client, a potential client, need to be convinced that you need this because you probably do. And you're so worried about how much money is going to come out of your bank account that your brain is trying to protect you from spending it, despite the fact that it could be the most important money that you've ever spent in your entire fucking life. So, sales is a big component of that. Marketing, which is a totally different thing. Just making people aware of the fact that you are a coach. That's an important thing too. Like as a coach, you have to be able to do it because again, if I back up, the most important thing that you can do as a coach is view your job as a way to help people. If you're viewing coaching as a way to make money, you're an idiot. And you probably shouldn't be coaching. And frankly, that's like 90% of the coaches out there. They view this as a way to make money. Fair. You should be profitable. That's the point of a business from the business owner's perspective. But the point of a business is to solve a problem. In this case, help people. And if you're motivated by helping people, you will make more money. And the only way that you're going to be able to help more people is if more people are aware that you are offering a service that they need. So marketing doesn't just benefit you as a coach, it also benefits the person on the other end who you are marketing to. Because again, a lot of these people genuinely need this, and a lot of them, most of them, don't realize that they need it. So it is your job as a coach not only to make the money by marketing and making people aware of your stuff, but making people aware of the fact that they actually have a problem that's a lot bigger than they probably recognized, and that you have the solution for it. Because again, we're solving problems and helping people, not just trying to make money. So I don't need to go into a ton of detail about marketing. That's not really the purpose of this call, but social media is a really good way. I know that's a very overarching description, but being on social media and posting about the things that you're doing and how you're doing it and how it can benefit other people and just providing value for other people so that they can recognize like, okay, this is something I didn't know and I now know it and now it can help me. And if they're, following through with any of the things that you're posting, that's a win. And the big thing is make them aware that you're offering a service that solves a massive, probably their biggest problem for them. So you can see now, like, sales and marketing is not just a way to make more money, it's a way to help more people. And if you're viewing it from that perspective, it's going to go a lot further. And people are going to get a lot more of it, a lot more from it. And you're going to get a lot more clients. You're going to help a lot more people. Everybody wins in that situation. Fulfillment. Here's a big thing. You have to get good at the business side of things. There's one thing, some people have developed a following in one way or another. Maybe they're really good at social media. Maybe they're really attractive. This is very common with female coaches that are just really good looking and they have a huge following just because they're attractive. Guys follow attractive girls on social media. I don't know if you guys were aware. This is a very common thing, right? And what ends up happening is sometimes people get a very, very big net as a result, like literal net, like think fish net. People get a very, very big net due to the fact that they have a big following. And sometimes that following stems from the fact that they look good themselves or they're just attractive or some other area of their life made them a little bit popular or whatever. Who knows? I don't know. I can't tell you exactly what it is. But at the end of the day, sometimes those people get loaded up with new clients. And the problem a lot of times is they can't fulfill all of those clients, right? I have acquaintances and friends who run other various different businesses that have the same problem where they get a lot of clients, cool, collect money, go to the bank, have a big bank account, buy a new car, whatever. But then what are you actually doing with those clients once you get them? Can you fulfill what those clients actually need? Everyone's really good at accepting new clients. Not everybody's very good at fulfilling what those clients actually need once they get them. And that's where the business pragmatism comes into play. You have to have systems set up on the back end to be able to fulfill all those clients. For example, I'm in the process of potentially doing something called sell by chat, where I don't actually get on sales calls with people because that takes up a ton of my time. If I'm getting tons and tons of new leads, that's great because that's a lot more potential money for me. But what if all of them hire me? What if every single one of these motherfuckers decides, hey man, you're the guy, I want to hire you. And then now all of a sudden I've got like 100 new clients. The problem is fulfillment. Then I can't handle 100 new clients because I'm spending all day on sales calls trying to acquire the clients. So I'm going to try something called sell by chat or close by chat, however you want to phrase it. And if that doesn't work out properly, then I'll hire a salesperson to do my sales for me so that they can spend their time doing that and I can spend my time fulfilling all of the needs of the clients who actually hire me. That's one. Those are two different potential solutions that I'm dealing with at the moment. I'm getting a lot of calls. I'm getting some days as many as 4 and 5 sales calls in a day, which is great. It's a great problem for any coach to have. If you can sign 5 clients in a day, it's like, holy shit, especially if they're paid in fulls, like you're making crazy money at that point. But again, I can only take so many clients before fulfillment starts to drop. And now I'm pissing everybody off who is working with me. The biggest thing that coaches need to understand is the most lucrative clients you have are the clients who have already paid you, that you're already working with. And what I mean by that is if you want to make a lot of money, you're going to need to do a very, very good job with the people who are already existing clients. Why? Because if you are, they're going to be happy. And if they're happy, the people around them are going to ask questions. How are you losing so much weight? You look amazing. Wow, this is great. And what are they going to say? They're going to point your name out. They're going to say, here's my guy. Here's his card. Here's his Instagram. Here's his number. And now you're going to get referrals from people who already trust you because they've seen it work with somebody else. But if your fulfillment sucks and you're not doing what you need to do for that client, they're probably not going to get very good results. And if they're not getting good results or good communication from you, they're not going to go tell everybody else to go hire you. And they're not going to re-sign with you once their commitment is up. And even sometimes before their commitment is up, they're going to recognize like, this is not what you sold me at all. The communication I was promised is not happening. Sounds like you're too fucking busy to work with me. Give me my money back. Now you got to deal with giving money back that you've already made if you're not able to handle the fulfillment. So you have to be really good at the business to understand how not only to get new clients, but to fulfill those new clients. Because if you can't fulfill them, then there's no point in even having them. You're wasting their time and you're wasting your own. And you're making money that you're probably going to have to either give back or stop making, or you're going to have to work 10 times harder. Let's just say you're lucky enough to do the bare minimum with fulfillment of the clients you have, which by the way, that's just not an excuse no matter what. But let's just say you do. Lost my train of thought. What was I going to say? Oh, the point is, then you're going to have to work that much harder to continue getting clients The easiest way to get new clients is to make the ones you have now happy, because then you get referrals. Easiest people in the world to sell are referrals. You don't even really have to sell them. If it's a referral, they just come to you and they're like, hey, my friend Jamie had amazing results with you. I want that too. And I know what you charge because Jamie already told me. So here it is. Here's my wallet. You're not even really selling a referral. You're basically just onboarding them and fulfilling. It's the simplest sale in the world. Whereas if you're getting someone through cold DMs or just hoping people see your Instagram who don't actually know and trust you yet, now you got to work your ass off and convince that person to hire you. And that can be a long process, dude. That can be a lot long. If you're really in the thick of it, you can run into this all the time where you'll have people who are interested, but they're not sure because they don't know you yet. So they got to get on a call with you. So you got to spend 30, 40 an hour, 30 minutes, 40 minutes an hour with them, talking to them, to get them to know what you do, how you do it, and hopefully to trust you enough to pay you. And in most cases, they're not very rarely going to pay you on the phone unless you're just an incredible salesperson. I'm not. Well, then it's probably going to be a follow-up call, or it's going to be, I'm going to think about it, or I'm going to talk to my husband or my wife or whatever. And then you're going to hope to hear back from them. And if you don't, then you got to follow up with them probably 2, 3, 4 more times. You're going to feel really annoying and awkward when you do it. They might be annoyed too. Maybe they're not. Maybe they like that. There's just no way to know. But my point is, it's a ton of work to maybe get that one client. If you're getting referrals, there's no sales necessary. They've already seen it work with someone that they already know and trust, who knows and trusts you. Therefore, it's easy for them to let their guard down and be like, okay, Jamie had great results. She's my best friend. So I know you could do the same for me because we're the same. So where do I sign up? Here's my money. How do I pay? That just takes hours and hours and hours of work and stress off your plate to get a new client. And so again, fulfillment is huge. Like, you have to have systems set up so that you can fulfill all the new clients that you're going to get. And here's the other thing. If you're a good coach that's doing all the stuff we talked about at the beginning of the video, all of this stuff gets easier and easier too, because you do have more clients that are having success and sending you referrals and renewing and all this other stuff. But if you suck as a coach because you're forcing people to just eat chicken and broccoli and nobody's doing it, not following the plan, not getting results, and you're going to sit there and be like, everybody's fucking lazy and doesn't follow my plan, and point the finger at all the clients and never to yourself, it's not going to work. It's just not how any of this shit works, dude. It's not how any business works either. You know? Let's see. Happens in my business too. People get huge wait lists and they stress themselves out. They really don't like it. They just like the idea of it. Exactly. Taking on new clients is great if you have systems set up to where you are able to fulfill those new clients. It's that simple. Like, if you had a tire shop, let's just take something completely different in the product-based industry that has nothing to do with fitness. Let's say you have a tire shop, you sell tires, but your inventory, let's say you have an inventory of 100 tires, and then you run an ad campaign, and all of a sudden that ad campaign starts working really well. And now you have 150 people in the door that want to buy your 100 tires, and they all need 4 of them. You don't have enough tires to fulfill. So they're just going to be sitting there ready to pay you for your fucking tires, and you don't have any tires to give them. And then they're like, well, fuck that. Then I'm going to go to the next tire shop and buy the tires that are already there. It's the same thing with coaching. Just, it's more stressful for both you and for the client. But that's the thing. It's really easy to just swipe cards. It's super easy to just swipe somebody's credit card and see your bank account get bigger. That's not coaching, though. That's like not even, that's anybody, a chimpanzee can do that. So selling people and swiping their card is great, but do you have the capacity to fulfill what those clients actually need and what you've already sold them on? Like, if you get on a sales call and you tell everybody, oh, I do customized training and customized meal plans, and I do follow-up every week, and we do check-ins, and I respond in a timely fashion, all that. Great, but are you delivering that? You have to be able to deliver that. And if you're getting a million new leads and you get to a point where you can't fulfill all those different leads, then you suck as a coach. Even if the plans that you're writing are insanely educated and optimized, and the macros are exactly what they need to get the results, and the training program is exactly what they need to get the results, you still suck as a coach. Period. That's probably the biggest thing the biggest flaw in my business for the longest time was the assumption that being a good coach just meant being more educated than everybody else. In a way, I'm glad I did it. I'm glad that I made that mistake early in my career, because it forced me to just educate, and become the smartest coach I could possibly be. That way I could solve any problem that fit within my little niche. and do it better than pretty much anybody else. That's like my, that's always been my calling card. I'm the best coach out there because I know all this stuff. But was I? Fuck no. I look back at what I was doing just like 3-4 years ago and I was like, dude, I was a terrible coach. I knew a lot and I could get people incredible results if I have the right number of clients and if those clients are willing to follow exactly what I tell them to do. In hindsight, I look back and I was like, I should have been a little less rigid with my meal plans. I should have taken into consideration things that people liked and didn't like more, because that makes you a better coach if you do that, because now you're giving people a plan that's optimal, but it's also something that they can do, that they can follow and sustain and stick with, and maybe even enjoy, hopefully enjoy. That's the most important thing. If they can enjoy it, then they're really going to follow it and they're really going to get results and they're really going to send you referrals. It's not going to happen if you're forcing them to just eat chicken and broccoli and they don't like chicken and broccoli. So no matter how educated you think you are, you're still being a bad coach. The fulfillment for me back then, and again, this is still a lot of coaches today, I was sending them a Microsoft Word document. I literally had clients that would print out the meal plan that I gave them and tape it up on their refrigerator. It can work. It's fine. It's not the worst thing in the world. If the plan's good, it's good. But like now, like having an app, like people can just literally open their phone, which they probably already have open, and see their meal plan anytime they want. They don't have to take their refrigerator with them everywhere they go to be able to see it. It's just right in front of them. And tracking is as simple as like pushing a couple buttons on their phone. That's a game-changing thing. I didn't necessarily learn anything different about nutrition, or I'm sure I've learned a lot about nutrition, but I'm not even necessarily implementing anything new with nutrition. It's just that I am delivering it in a way that's way more user-friendly and way easier for clients to follow. Therefore, adherence is way higher than it used to be. I used to be frustrated every single day when I would look at check-ins because I'd look at them and no one's following the plan. And a lot of times they're lying to me about it. That's another thing about good coaching is how are you reacting to your clients when they check in with you, whether it's good or bad? Because if you have clients that are checking in and being honest and vulnerable with you and saying, hey, I hadn't followed the plan very well. The plan, I just didn't, I screwed up a few times. It was Halloween and I ate a lot of my kids' Halloween candy. If you're responding to that with just follow the fucking plan, you paid me for a plan, I gave you the plan, fucking follow it, then you're a bad coach. You're a bad coach. I'm sorry. But if that's your response, you're not a good coach. Yes, you may be educated. You may know a lot about nutrition. But if your clients aren't following your plan, oftentimes it's because your plan sucks. Not meaning that it wouldn't work. It's just that it sucks for that individual human being. You're coaching human beings. And if you're forcing human beings to do things that they do not want to do, that they do not enjoy at all, that they legitimately loathe on a daily basis, they're not going to follow your plan. And if they don't follow your plan, they don't get results, and therefore you're a bad coach. Wish we lived in a world where people could compete and not get dead last and then offer coaching. Well, yeah, that's the problem, dude. Being a coach is a fun job. It's a cool job, right? Like I get a lot of praise just for doing the job. It's a desirable job to have. Being an entrepreneur is like the trendiest thing in the world. Everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. Everybody wants to be a prep coach, right? And it's like, do you have any characteristics that will lead to you finding any success, either as a coach or an entrepreneur or both? Because if not, yes, it's cool. Just like being an NBA basketball player is cool. But I'm a 5'11" white guy. And by the way, basketball is my biggest passion in the world, way more so than bodybuilding ever has been. Why am I not an NBA basketball player? Because I'm not good enough to be an NBA basketball player. That's why. I'm a 5'11" white guy. I'm never going to be an NBA basketball player. I knew that by the time I was in high school. It didn't stop me from doing my damnedest to try to get as far as I possibly could, and I have no regrets about that. But it's not going to happen. If you're an unintelligent person, you're not going to be a good prep coach. It's just not going to happen. I'm sorry. If you don't know how to run a business, you're not going to be a good prep coach. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. If you're not able to follow a plan yourself, you're not going to be a good prep coach. I'm sorry. The fact that you got on a bodybuilding stage, even if you did well, even if you look good and you followed your own plan, you're not going to be a good prep coach just because of that. That means nothing. That actually says literally zero about your qualifications as a coach. None. You need to be educated on all the concepts that you're actually coaching on, training, nutrition, all that kind of stuff. But you also have to have all the other intangible stuff. You have to be able to sell. You have to be able to market. You have to be able to fulfill. You have to have systems in place so that you're capable of fulfilling everything for those clients. You have to have empathy. You have to be able to pragmatically put together plans that are not only optimal from a X's and O's, like nutrition, macros, et cetera standpoint, but from the perspective of, is this client going to enjoy and be able to sustain following a plan like this? Because if not, you're not a good coach and you shouldn't even be doing it. You're wasting people's time and money. And you're also watering down the industry. Probably the most frustrating thing I deal with on a daily basis is I get on calls with people who've had coaches in the past and they assume that I'm going to be just like them. And when I'm not, it's not even that they're disappointed that I'm not. It's they assume I'm going to be like them. Therefore, they're hesitant to hire me in the first place. So it's like, yeah, I've heard other coaches say this, and then I hired them, and then they weren't like this, and I wasted money. So I'm a little skeptical about doing this with you. They don't say that, but I know that's what they're thinking. Sometimes they do say it. And it's just like, yeah, it's because there's a lot of coaches out there, and a lot of them don't have a fucking clue what they're doing, and they shouldn't be doing it, and it's wildly irresponsible that they're doing it. I can't change that. All I can do is be the best coach I can possibly be, and you just got to take this leap of faith with me because this could change your life. Let me see. I got some comments in here. My app is fire. Thank you. I appreciate that. Speaking of your app, how'd you create it? Aren't apps crazy expensive? So there's actually, no, they're not expensive. Not the way that I did it. So I did not pay I don't even know how you go about creating an app from zero. What they're charging is bonkers. Yes, exactly. I went through a system called Fitbud, and they basically it's kind of like a hosting app. It's an app that's already built out, and then when you sign up, they customize all the features of the app with your logos and all of your stuff, and you can customize some of the stuff yourself, like the questionnaire and the opening questionnaire and stuff is all customized by me. But again, the basic framework of the app was already built out by Fitbud. So it cost me about $100 a month or something like that. I think once you get to a certain number of clients onboarded, they charge you a little bit more or whatever. So, go high level for AR, I guess. I actually don't even know what that is. Maybe. Anyway. I'm happy I got the Tesla back too. That was chaos. It still could be. That's the thing. I'm not even done. I got the car back and it's paid off, which you would think would be great, and it is, but now I got to worry about it destroying my credit. A repossession, even though it should have never happened in the first place, looks really, really bad on your credit. My credit could take close to a 200-point hit, all because Wells Fargo failed to send me any kind of a notification to let me know that my payments weren't being drafted. So I'm not completely out of the woods, but yes, I do have the car back, which is wonderful. Does anybody have any questions now that I got some people actually logged in at the moment, just about coaching as a whole, whether it's, from a potential client's perspective, or even if you're a coach yourself, this kind of is all encompassing, which is kind of cool. It's why I wanted to do this topic, because I think a lot of people who are interested in hiring coaches are unaware of all the things that go into it, and maybe unaware of what should go into it. And then of course there's, coaches who are offering coaching and they're really good at offering. Is anybody in here, is anybody on the live right now familiar with Seinfeld? It always takes a while for people to respond when I ask questions. I'm a huge Seinfeld fan. And I was going to make a Seinfeld reference, but why no month to month? Okay, so we got a Seinfeld fan. I'll answer the month to month thing in a minute. There's the episode where Jerry and Elaine are going to rent a car, and they go up to the counter, and Jerry reserved the car and he's there to pick it up, and they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, we actually don't have any available right now." And he's like, "But I reserved the car for this date or whatever." They're like, "Yeah, we see the reservation there, we just don't have the car." And that's the point. The point is people are really good at making taking the reservation and collecting money and then not fulfilling on the other end. Anyway, whatever. That's my Seinfeld reference. Why no month to month? So I do month to month. It's just I try to avoid it, and I'll explain why. And I think every coach should, to be honest with you. I think every coach should absolutely avoid doing month-to-month payments. This is just my firm belief, and that's all I used to do. To be clear, for years, all I did was month-to-month payments. I charged X amount per month. That's how I quoted my prices, was on a month-to-month basis. And yeah, it's a low barrier of entry. So from a client's perspective, I understand like, yeah, but I don't want to pay you a lot of money up front. It's more comfortable for me to pay little bit of money over time. Well, here's a few different things. One, when a small amount of money comes out of your bank account, psychologically, you are far less likely to follow through with whatever it is that you were paying for versus when a big chunk of money comes out and puts a literal dent in your bank account. You're so much more likely to follow through. Every single person I ever have that pays up front has way better results. And I don't do anything differently for them. They get way better results because psychologically they're like, damn, 3,600 just came out of my bank account. Like, I got to make sure that I fucking do this. Whereas if 400 comes out of their bank account, it's like, whatever, it's $400. I know that it comes out every month. And I'll get to that too. I'll elaborate more on that. But either way, it's just the psychology of the amount that comes out at one specific time. When you pay somebody a lot of money, you just know what that big chunk of money is at all times, which holds you so much more accountable to actually follow through with the plan. And if you follow through with the plan more diligently, you get better results. You're going to be happier. It'll change your life in a much bigger way. And again, on my end, you're much more likely to refer people to me. So then the next question is, and I know you're already thinking it, which is, what if I can't afford the lump sum payment? What if I like just physically do not have that amount of money in my bank account? Well, one, you put it on a credit card. And I'm not encouraging people to put themselves into a bunch of debt, but that is an option. Maybe you don't have that credit limit and you still can't even do that. Okay. Then there's two things you need to pay attention to. Like one, can you afford coaching? Like, should you even be doing coaching right now? Or like, what am I doing in my life that's making me unable to afford this technically not so crazy price? But I do offer the use of Affirm or Klarna, which is basically just payment. Like, I get paid in full if you use it, and then you can just pay it over time back to them. So it's the exact same thing as month-to-month payments, except I get paid up front. And people are like, okay, well then why not just accept month-to-month payments from clients? Here's why. I already described the first portion of it. People just, when they pay month-to-month, they're way less likely to follow the plan. True. Fact. The other is, let's say you make an 8-month commitment with me and you pay your $400 a month or whatever. Your $400 comes out of your bank account. Because that's a smaller amount, like I said, you're probably going to be less likely to follow the plan. And if you don't follow the plan, how are you going to feel about the plan month 2, month 3, month 4 when that $400 keeps coming out and you're not getting any results because you're not following the plan? You're going to think, why the hell am I paying for this if I'm not using it? And then what's the next course of action? Hey man, I don't want to waste any more of your time. I haven't really been following this, and I know I haven't been checking in, so you think you could just refund it? No, I don't think that you could just refund it. Absolutely not. That's not how any of this ever works. You don't get to just get the money back that you already paid for a plan that you already have because you chose not to follow it. The main reason people don't follow the plan, especially when it's with me, because again, I am taking into consideration your schedule and your preferences and stuff like that. But in addition to that, you can just track the macros really easily in my app. So you can literally eat whatever you want. So I give you no excuses not to follow the plan. There's nothing you could say that would justify not following the plan, frankly. But either way, I'm not giving you your money back just because you chose not to follow it. And so then there's multiple other layers as well, which are sometimes it's not even the client's fault. Maybe you had fraudulent charges on your account. And then when your auto draft comes out, your card declines. Then what do I have to do? Take more time away from fulfillment of my existing clients to text you and say, hey, your card declined. Can we take care of this payment? Which, by the way, is uncomfortable to continue talking about money all the time. And then you got to tell me, well, I don't have the money in my account right now, or I don't have the card. It's sending in the mail. Once I get it, I'll text you over the numbers. And then you have to remember to do that. And I have to rely on you to remember to do that. Or I have to follow up with you again 6 days later to ask if you got the new card and ask you yet again for more money. Sometimes it's insufficient funds. Sometimes the card just expires and all this happens. So you can see how this builds up to insane amounts more work. And that's just if one person declines. I'm constantly working with like 50, 60 plus clients at a time. So if I'm doing month to month with every single person, and that happens 6, 7, 8, 12, 15 times a month, and hours of me hunting people down for $400 fucking payments. $400 payments that are not going to make anybody feel accountable to following that specific plan because it's only $400. as opposed to a lump sum payment of a lot more that's going to make them way more accountable to that plan, because it should hurt a little bit. Like when you're doing something that's legitimately life-changing, the amount that you pay for it should hurt a little bit, because it's going to be a lot more likely that you follow through with that thing that you're paying for. So that, in a nutshell, those are all the reasons why I try to avoid month-to-month payments. And I could go into way more detail about that, but I don't think anyone really cares. I think I've driven the point home just enough. It's way less work for me. It's way less stress for me. It's way less stress for you. It increases paying in full increases the likelihood that you're going to follow the plan, which increases the likelihood that you're going to get results, which increases the likelihood that you're going to renew, which increases the likelihood that you're going to send me referrals. There's a million different reasons. Paying month to month for stuff, unless it's like a subscription to Netflix or something, is really honestly kind of silly. Like, you should think of coaching as a product, and it's an expensive product, and it could change. By the way, Netflix is never going to change your life. Nothing you ever watch on Netflix is going to make your life better. Hiring a coach and following what they do could legitimately change your life in the biggest way you could ever imagine. Make the investment. Not only that, like, this is the big thing. And I was taught this in like sales coaching that I paid for. And in reality, it shouldn't even have to be a sales thing. At the end of the day, and I've done the math on this, by the way, my average client, saves well over $1,000 a month as a result of following my plan. And that includes the money that they pay me. Saves. Like, I could just package and advertise this as like financial advising. I will guarantee that you will have much, much more money in your bank account every single month if you just pay me to do your meal plan. And it's the literal truth. Energy drinks, if you drink 2 of them a day, you're spending $200 a month on energy drinks. If you go to Qdoba on your lunch break at work, and I'm sure most of you do something like that, you're spending about $4,000 a year on Qdoba. Can you afford coaching now? Because I just saved you, what would that be? That'd be, I just saved you like $6,000 a year if you just stop buying energy drinks and going to Qdoba. And if you're following my plan, you're probably going to do both of those things. My coaching's nowhere near $6,000 a year. So if you follow my plan and eliminate those things, you have more money now. More. You're not breaking even. You have more money. You paid me and now you have more money. Really not that complicated. There's a gap in character and integrity, in my opinion. If it comes down to paying fully or month to month, that's a wild concept to think people's motivating factor to be real. Yeah, I get it. I mean, it is what it is. Everybody's a little bit different. But at the end of the day, like, you're more committed to things that you pay a lot of money for. Let's think of it like this. Like, if you're a 16-year-old kid and your parents hand you down a car that you don't have to pay for, you don't have to pay insurance for it, and they're giving you gas money every month or every week or whatever, how well are you going to treat that car? Versus you going to a dealership and sitting down and negotiating with the salesperson and taking a big chunk out of the money that you worked your ass off to afford or to acquire, and then give that over for the car that you now have worked for and actually purchased with your own money. How are you going to treat that car? Way fucking better. We can all understand that. If somebody's just giving you something, or you're only paying a very small price for something like a car, you're probably not going to treat it very well. I bought a car a few years ago, Acura MDX. It was a 2006. It already had 150,000 miles on it when I bought it. I basically bought it because it was a beater, and I was always going to have my 2 dogs. At the time, I had 2 just sloppy, nasty Mastiffs, my favorite things on earth. But having a nice car and having them in it was just not going to happen. So I knew they were going to destroy it. I beat the shit out of that car. I never washed that car. I never vacuumed that car because I didn't care. It didn't cost me a lot of money, so it was what it was. The Tesla, I wash that thing every week. I wash that thing. I literally clean that motherfucker out as often as I possibly can. I bought a big, nice dog bed in there so that Heidi doesn't fuck it up, because it's an expensive car. Believe me, I know from experience. Ain't ready to hear that. Starbucks average $15 a visit. If you're spending $15 at Starbucks daily, you're spending over $4,000 a year on Starbucks. So if you're following a coach's plan, you're probably not paying them that much, and you're probably not going to eat or get, Starbucks every day. So you've already paid for your coach by not going to Starbucks. Yeah. If you're selling cars, then you totally get it. So, but here's the thing, from the coach's perspective, you should charge a lot of money. And I think that you should, do your best to get lump sum payment from people for all the reasons I just described, both to benefit you, but honestly, more so just as much just to benefit them. But you have to be able to fulfill all of the things that you are supposed to be fulfilling for that client. And a lot of that requires better marketing, better sales, better systems on the back end for you to be able to keep up with all that fulfillment. You don't want to be that doctor or dentist or chiropractor who's just got a line out the door of your waiting room that are all there, that are all already supposed to have seen you because you're in there wasting time with the one person that you have. You hear about that all the time. It's like, yeah, this guy's like a really great chiropractor, but every time I go to see him, my appointment's at 3:00. I get there at 2:50, and I'm sitting in the waiting room at 4:50 waiting to get in there. And it's bullshit. Yeah, it's because they don't know how to run a business. And it's the same thing with coaching. It just looks a little bit different when it's online. How would you say people who have to be coaches should set their pricing based off of what? I mean, it depends on the person. I was just at a seminar 2 weeks ago in Dallas. It was like a coaching business seminar, I guess, is how you would word it. And there are coaches there that charge $2,000 a month straight up, and they got a wait list. Like, there's people out there that are making that much money doing it. And some people hear that and think $2,000 a month, there's no coaching that's worth that. If people pay it, then it is simple as that. So you should charge whatever you want to charge. If you want to charge $150 a month just to get people in the door, low barrier of entry, then cool. But people who pay you $150 a month are probably not going to follow your plan because it's not enough of a dent in their bank account to feel justified in following it. They're probably going to require a lot more of you than anybody else if that's all they can afford. People who can only afford $150 a month, just think about it. What is somebody who can only afford $150 a month for something that's as important as coaching? What does that say about them as a person? They probably live a relatively erratic life. They probably aren't succeeding at a very high level. They're probably relying on a lot of other people for things to get done, probably not very responsible, etc. Otherwise, they would be doing something that makes them more money than that, in which case they're going to rely on you for way more than you're going to want to fulfill. So charging low, shouldn't be competing. Agreed. You can't afford it. Like, that's just simple as that. Like, if you're going to charge cheap prices, and to be clear, I was always the cheap price guy for a long time, and I frankly still am. People don't recognize that. Like, what I charge is way below what a lot of people out there who are nowhere near as educated or as experienced as I am. There's tons of people charging way more than me that aren't as good of coaches. They've just developed a better reputation one way or another. So how do you determine your pricing? You just decide what you think your pricing is worth. You determine what your coaching is worth, and you charge it. And if people don't pay it, is what it is. If put it this way, the easiest way to determine your pricing is your closing rate as a salesperson, by far. If you're closing every single person you get on a sales call with, you're not charging enough. You're charging way too little. And if you're getting on sales calls every day and every single person is saying no, then you're charging too much. You have to find a sweet spot where you're closing 60, 70% of your people. Because if you're getting way more than that, you're not charging enough. You need to hear no sometimes. If everybody thinks your product or your service is worth it and everyone's willing to pay it, you're not charging enough. I get told no all the time. Honestly, my close rate needs to be higher. Which could be an indication that I'm charging too much. But then I look at the market and I recognize, no, it's not that. There's people who are nowhere near as good at coaches as me that are charging way more than I am, double, if not more in some cases. So it's not that I'm charging too much. It's just there's other things that need to be fixed. Some of it is just getting the right leads. And again, that goes down to like how you're doing your marketing. If your posting is not targeted to a specific person or an avatar, as we call it in the industry, think about it like this. If you're trying to sell, I'll use cars as an example. And you said 2K, I knew several people off the top of my head that charge way more than that. You're right. I'm talking $2,000 a month. Some people are charging, and that's astronomically higher than me. But either way, I'll go back to the car thing. If I'm trying to market a vehicle, we got to decide, okay, what specific car am I trying to sell? And if my car is a Lamborghini, now I have to determine, how do I market to people who are going to be potential Lamborghini buyers? Am I going to make a commercial in a low-income neighborhood to try to sell Lamborghinis? No, because people who live in low-income neighborhoods can't fucking afford Lamborghinis. So if I'm making a Lamborghini commercial or making a post about high-ticket coaching, then I need to be marketing to people who can afford high-ticket coaching. Just like the Lamborghini. You're going to have that commercial being set in an affluent, expensive neighborhood, in an affluent, expensive neighborhood next to a mansion with like Irish Terrier, I don't know, like an expensive kind of designer dog or whatever, carrying a Louis Vuitton bag or whatever. Like watch Peloton commercials. Pelotons are expensive as shit. They're like 3-4 grand for a stupid bike. And they're cool or whatever, but they're expensive. They don't have that many features that are that much better than just a standard used bike you can get at a store for $300. They charge 10 times that. What do their commercials look like? It's a bunch of rich people in big giant houses with like beautiful families and expensive shit everywhere. And then there's a Peloton sitting in their house. Smart, because rich people buy Pelotons. So you want to market to rich people. If all of my marketing is to a bunch of poor people and I'm trying to charge $2,000 a month for coaching, which by the way, again, I don't, for anyone who may have just signed in. Of course I don't. It's not going to happen. You can't charge high ticket and market to people who don't have money. And if you're marketing to people who do have money and charging low ticket, you're doing it all. You're way too confused. You got to start back over from scratch. So, but yeah, no, those prices are for general population. Some of it is also for like business coaching, like coaching coaches that they're charging that amount. And that's a little more justifiable due to the fact that you're helping people actually make money on the other end. So it's easy to charge a lot of money when the objective of the client is to make more money by following your plan. You know, I'm not helping anybody actually physically make more money as a coach. I'm helping them look better and feel better and frankly spend a lot less money on dumb shit and then eventually spend a lot less money on medications and doctor visits. But again, I'm advertising how I can change their life in like physical ways or psychological. But anyway, okay. Does anybody else have any questions or anything that they want to, throw in the mix before I log off here? I've been going a lot longer than I thought I was going to. I'll wait here for a minute. Give you guys a 60-second window to ask questions. Shit, actually, I have a call in 7 minutes, so I gotta get off here pretty soon anyway. So, anybody, anything? Okay, I'm gonna log off here. Thank you guys for listening, and there will be some clips coming from this in the near future.